Hello and welcome to Cinemondo with Kathy and Melanie. Duh. I love to talk to Melanie about Indian movies because she knows everything. And I feel like I have so much to learn and she has taught me so much. So she's back to grace everyone with her amazing knowledge. So here we are. Be sure and visit her channel. You probably already know about it.
Yeah.
Daisy.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you mentioned that you had just watched this film, Joji, and you were just like, would you be willing to talk about it? It's so amazing. Yeah, it is. It is really something special. And so one thing that's really cool about Malayalam films is that it's almost like this repertory theater.
Yes.
So, for instance, Basil Joseph plays a supporting character, a very humorous scene. He plays a priest. Okay, now he is a film director, in his own right, and that's the thing. People take turns being in each other's film. Has been a supporting actor. He's played a priest himself, right? Like he has been in other people's films, right? And so here he is behind the camera, but he helps out friends. And so it's this repertory feeling kind of where everyone is collaborating together. And I love that. I love that it's this collaborative process for many of these films. And Fahad Fasil, I don't know if you noticed, not only does he star in this film, but his production company that he started with his wife was one of the production companies making this film possible. So, so I love when stars, and I think Fahad Fasil did some really interesting things during the pandemic. I love that this film is set during the pandemic.
That was interesting.
Sort of another character and adding shades of, like it totally makes sense that the older brother would not, even in a hospital, not have his mask on and whatever,
Yeah, that was funny.
One of my favorite lines of the film is when Bincy tells Joji, you have to come to the funeral, put your mask on. And
I know, and I love how he puts it on. And he looks like
how many layers of meaning that means, right? When she says, put your mask on.
And when he's looking in the mirror and you're just seeing his eyes, it's, oh my God.
Yeah. So, when I heard that this was going to be an adaptation of Macbeth, I'm like, really?
I know. I was like, how is this going to work?
Yeah. And also because this was put out during pandemic filming, think about it. They've made this family drama where they had essentially a small number of characters in a house together, because almost the entire film is set in this house, in this family estate, right? And I mean, I suppose there's a couple of hospital scenes, whatever, but this is not like some big action film that's taking place all over the scenes of a city or something, right? This is figuring out, okay, we have these restrictions of filming during the pandemic. What can we do? How can we still make this? I mean, Fahad Fasil even did a film, I'm blanking the name of it, I'm sure your viewers will come, where basically he rented out an entire floor of apartments, and most of the film was people talking through cell phones and video cameras and whatever.
Oh, that's funny.
Like he was in a room by himself, like watching, and again, it was watching things happening and interacting with people through video calls and stuff. And so Fahad made it work, and also put up the money and did things so filmmaking and the creative process could keep going during the pandemic.
And it's so strange to me and I haven't done this that often though, but when I started watching, I realized it was a pandemic, not based movie, but set in that time. Right. You realize, like, my God, it feels so long ago, but it wasn't. Yeah. Right. And did you see that fear and the intensity of having to wear the masks and seeing people in the film have to react as if, when the pandemic's, even though they're kind of sequestered away on their property away from everyone else, that they're still having to put the masks on if anyone comes around. Just that adds to that whole weird uneasiness. Not only does it veil people symbolically and literally, like their motivations and what's happening and how on the level are they, it also kind of shows you where they are, just in a mental place, because there's the paranoia about it or there isn't. And then you have the whole other level of paranoia about what's happening, which I thought was really well handled.
Well, the other thing about the pandemic is, what did it do? It forced us to be together.
Exactly.
Like you're stuck with your family in a lot of, And so that is a lot of the tension of this film, right?
Yes.
Because maybe Joji, I mean, you see from one of the very first scenes that Joji does, I guess he's failed at engineering school or whatever. He really doesn't have his own money. He's having to ask his father for money. The way he's dressed, the costuming is like this Arrested Development of this guy in his 20s or whatever, dressing like he's a teenager, right?
Dressing like the kid who's in the house with him.
Right.
Like he's dressed just like him. So they look, it's like, dude. And I love how everyone looks at him and go, get your shit together. Like everyone's just like, come on. And I can see the dad's frustration, who's fierce. Who is this actor? Oh my God. Terrifying, amazing, great.
So good. When you suggested this, I revisited like the wheelchair scene after he's had his stroke.
So intense, that guy. I mean, and that's where I started going, this is like Succession. Like this is like super intense, really like everybody wants to just strangle each other. That's how you felt about this movie. And he looked like the scariest, like he was definitely a king. It was like so intense. When he was going in there to strangle Fava, that was intense. And you're like, you weren't sure who was the worst person at this point. You're kind of like, wow, why is he being so mean to him? And then you're like, oh, now I see why. But at the same time, don't be so mean to him.
Right. But and also that the eldest brother was so much his father, right?
Yes.
Just kind of reacted to things in the same way, wanted to solve problems in the same way. Because Joji really didn't fit in this family, didn't fit in this, in another family, it would have been very different. Yeah. One character that I really loved is his sister-in-law, Bincy.
I loved her.
Yeah. Like the scene where she blows up, because Joji is literally sitting next to the refrigerator. And he's walking by and he's like, can you give me some cold water? And she's like, this is a refrigerator. It's right here next to you. You can reach the water from your seat. Like just, I mean, and the look, she doesn't even have to say things. The look on her face when the ambulance brings her father-in-law from the hospital into their home and they're having to carry him up on a stretcher. I could just see the look on her face like, now I got to deal with this.
Yes, exactly. And I loved her too. Like she had the big owl-like glasses and she was always kind of sitting around just really observing. And you could see her very passively, just like not even wanting to give away what she knew or didn't know. But I love that she was kind of the eyes around the house, like, cause she knew where everything was. She knew everything. So when she walks by and he's like being nefarious in his room and she walks by and looks, he's like, oh shit, she saw me, because he knows that she sees everything. And she was so deadpan. Everything about her just, she seemed very passive, but she so wasn't, so great.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, she is, like the wife in Macbeth. Because when I heard that it was going to be, and then like we're seeing the opening in the movie, and I'm like, okay, Joji is this single ne'er-do-well. How is he Macbeth? Like, how? You're right.
I know, right?
Because I was like, how is this going to work, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're introduced to Bincy, and I'm like, okay, yeah. And I just, she such a strong, all the characters, very strong supporting characters in this family, but especially the dad. Like, whoa,
so intense.
So intense. Yeah,
I mean, too, the sort of almost like they have all these great actors in this very small space. Like we don't really ever leave the house or the property. Like there's a few scenes out where Joji, and for reasons, it's kind of a little further away from the house, like he is from the family. Like it's symbolically and visually, he goes and hangs out this little area where there's no fish, pretends to fish, and then he's walking around the woods. It's like, but everything else pretty much is almost like you said, stage bound, like almost like a stage play.
The claustrophobic of everyone is tied.
Yeah.
It's like if you want the money, you're going to have to stay in this household, and
you just got to eat shit all day long.
It's the suffocation of being all together in this family.
When the dad has the stroke, you could almost see everybody kind of go, they can breathe for a second, and then when he's coming back, you see everybody go, oh no. It's like coming back. It was like this, and so that I think was what kind of lit the fuse, because they had a moment of what the freedom might have felt like. As much as they felt guilty and sad, it was kind of like, well, we're going to have to give him this great funeral. No, he's back.
Yeah, I mean, the scene, I think it's the middle, the doctor's son, Jason, you know, when he's trying to ask for money and like trying to get his father in the wheelchair to sign. And that's the father is just like, so you all had these plans while I was in the hospital.
Take long did it.
You know, just like he totally sees through all of it. Like here he has this family and is obviously disappointed in all of it, right?
For good reason.
For good reason. But also you can see that this man would not have been easy to live with as
there's a reason.
As the patriarch of this family.
Like in a way, he kind of created the problem himself by being so abusive and so strong, you know, strong arming everyone that they couldn't even think for themselves anymore. Like they had no real agency for their own lives. So no wonder they were kind of like faltering because and I love to like, here's, you know, Fafa with his big ideas. I'm going to have a horse deal. Really? I mean, like, I love where he takes this really pathetic, this picture of him on the horse, like take a picture of me. He tries to post it on social media and just looks so like sad. And you're like and you see the funnel of money going to this waste of time again. Like you feel like he has all these stupid ideas and he keeps running through the money. Like I love where he's like, oh no, my dad's gonna realize how much money I've actually spent on this. I'm in big trouble. And that's where it was kind of like, I need to
well, I mean, let's just talk about Fahad, and he's such an amazing actor.
So good.
And he's also willing to play unlikable characters. Okay, like the writing is so strong of this script, but it's also the entire movie is really, you know, Fahad, you know, so many scenes of him just alone and having freakouts in his room or whatever. Also the closing shot.
Oh God!
The credits start of it saying Joji's palace.
Oh, I know.
It's like a little kid, right?
Little room. I know. It's like, don't come in. Do not disturb. It's just some stupid kid thing.
But again, it's like the Macbeth, like Joji's palace. Like I just love the layers of that. But anyway, he just, you know, there's been all these articles and whatever written about the acting in Fahad Faasil's eyes. Okay. But you know what? The man really has it. Like, so the interesting thing is he is a star kid. I don't know if you know that about him. His father is a famous director, producer, writer, actor named Fasil. And they launched Fahad, and they tried to launch him. And his first film was a complete flop. And Fahad Fasil actually came to Florida and was pursuing a philosophy degree. Okay, so like picture that in your brain.
That is hilarious. Oh my God.
Then went back and, you know, has had this long, incredible career. And most of the time he is playing characters not as evil as this, but you've also seen Kumbalangi Nights. Like he is willing to play people that are unlikable. He does not have to have a hero entry. He doesn't have to have all the trappings of a star and be the one that saves the day in the end and gets the girl and whatever.
Right.
He's choosing scripts, and this is an example because his production company was part of putting this movie together. He is picking roles that are interesting. That are interesting for him.
And what's more interesting than villains? And you know, it's someone who's not. The heroes are probably the most boring characters you can play because you're not even allowed to be complex half the time. So when you have a villain who is relatable in a way like this character, you almost feel sorry for him, almost, except he was so damaged. Like, you know, he's struggling. His dad's really mean to him. Like, you kind of see why he was sort of a failure, but that constant reminder what a failure he was, like you said, in the closed-in pandemic where they're all together and the father constantly judging him, constantly. And you could see him just crumbling mentally and just like, oh, I can't take it. And you almost see why he was driven to the desperate measures that he was. The hardest that when he loses you, because you're no fan of the father. It was terrible what he did, but you're like, so, you know, but he goes a step too far. When he goes to the brother, you're like, no, you get why he's doing it. But once he did that, you're like, unsalvageable. You're done. You can't come back from this one now.
Right. I mean, the family confrontation.
Oh God. When they're like, we're not buying it, dude.
When he brings his brother in and he to the home,
everything.
He's like, and he's just like, and then his brother's like, no, I will slit my throat with him. You are not going to blackmail me.
I know. I love where he's like,
with you.
Okay, I did it, but I'm going to blackmail you. And he's just like, are you kidding me right now? It's like, what?
Yeah. Wow.
I love her too. There's these great shots, and they work really well in the trailer where he's sort of outside the room or having a reaction where he kind of does this laugh. And I just love his sort of offhand moments where he kind of goes, oh, yeah. And he walks out of the room. Those are so perfect because it's kind of him like, I'm going to dismiss this. Nothing gets to me. There's great subtle reactions. And I'm like, that is so well done. And I love him in the trailer because they cut him in at really like weird times. And then I'm like, how's this going to work in the movie? Even better. Even better in the movie.
Yeah, he's incredible. He doesn't even, like you say, he doesn't even have to be having dialogue.
Right.
To just like be conveying like these
dominates every scene.
Incredible.
Talked about his eyes, like he has these really expressive eyes, and they really make use of him because a lot of times he's alone in his palace. He's in his palace laying there, and you just see his eyes are just kind of open, and he's not even blinking, and you just see all these thoughts running. I don't know how actors do that. It's like magic to me, witchcraft. His eyes are so in the constant wherever he is in the screen, I'm trying to find him and trying to look at his eyes. The whole time I'm just following him around in every scene, no matter what anyone else is doing. It's like, oh my God, he's so good. Yeah. I know we're raving, but when I see a movie like this, and I'm like, I wrote to you and said, I just saw Joji. I am blown away by this movie. Like, what the hell?
I mean,
like, I don't know.
I mean, his performance is the singular thing about it, but also the writing is incredible. Mm-hmm. And so just so you know, this director did a previous film, and I'm sorry to your viewers because I'm going to completely mangle it. Okay. As a director, he's done 3 films, Mahisanti Pratakaram and Tandamatalam Driksakshiam. Okay. That one, if you want to talk about acting with the eyes. So he did that one also with Fahad, who plays a thief.
Okay.
Who steals a necklace.
Okay. And I love a heist movie.
I'm not. Oh, it's not even like small time. Little.
I know, but heist in a small way. I stole a necklace.
But I mean, because it's a marriage necklace that he chain that he steals, and so the couple are not going to let it go. And there's an incredible scene at the interval point, and he just looks at the camera, and it's like breaking a fourth wall of like, did I get away with it? Like,
oh my God.
I mean, he's so funny, and so highly recommend.
Highly recommended. It's just it's really smart drama, and it's got the crime element and how I love people commit crimes and try and cover their tracks, and they're trying to get away with it. I cannot get enough of those kind of movies, and this is done in a really cool way because again, it is all happening in one little tiny place.
And it's like he has no clue that like you did all these Google searches and whatever. Like,
I know that's classic. It's like, every time they bust somebody, they look at the Google, so how to get rid of a body. It's like you can't. You just can't do. I love like what's the weakest part of the skull, and I'm like, oh my God, what is he gonna do now?
All right. Fahadh Faasil has had an incredible career, and he's done all different kinds of roles. I would say I'm one film, because we have had a series on my channel where I've suggested films that you should see, and there's a film called Bangalore Days.
Okay.
Which really has a lot of these young actors who are now superstars. Okay. And that is the film where he met his wife. Aww. And they play husband and wife in that film. And, so he's done, it doesn't matter what film he's in. If his name is on it, people want to see it because they want to see, what is this guy going to do next? Right.
All right.
And, not all of them are equally, so there's a film that he did called Trance. Not necessarily my favorite film, but it's so fascinating performance because he plays like a revival preacher, like someone who tries to do faith healing.
Oh, that's good.
And so crazy. Like he just if people see that he's involved with a film, that's a film that people want to see, and for good reason, because not only is he one of the finest actors in Indian cinema, I would say of any cinema, right?
Yeah. And this is I've seen a few lately that have been like this one, and when I first started doing these podcasts with concentrating on Indian films, I watched Pushpa, and I watched Vikram. So I didn't really know who he was at this point. I'm just kind of watching. So I watch it. Who's this guy? What the hell? Like I didn't know who he was. So I'm like, this guy's still in this movie. And it's, he's like crazy, and Pushpa is like great, and then in Vikram, I'm like, oh, he's such a great character in this. And this terrible, tragic stuff happened to him. And he's so good at that victim, not victim thing. Like he was sort of in a way bringing all this stuff on himself because he just couldn't leave it alone. But then you're like, of course you would have to do this. You know what I mean? He's so great. So I'm like, he's popping for me. So when someone said, I think you're saying, oh yeah, watch more of these, Fahadh Faasil, movies. And I'm like, okay. And then, Joji came up and everyone's saying, raving about this. And so I started watching it going, God, this is that same guy who's been killing me in every movie I see him in. No wonder. So now I'm like on a mission to see all of his movies. So I'm writing them all down. Trance, Bangalore Nights.
You really can't go wrong. I mean, I'm not saying I love all of them equally, but even I so admire Kumbalangi Nights, where here he is. He is not the hero of the movie. He is not the main character of the movie. He's taking a supporting role. Yep. But he's taking the film to the next level, right?
Well, he also gets his great Jack Torrance moment at the end, which is I love it. He's like goes in the corner, but he's like, what's he doing? What the hell? And he's just that actor who does these inexplicable. I mean, I know it was in the script, but like, he has a way of taking a moment and then making it a little extra special. Like, that's what he's doing.
Think about towards the beginning of that film when he's looking in the mirror and putzing with his and whatever. Like, again, not necessarily saying anything, but we learn so much about his character just from the way he's looking at himself in the mirror and futzing with his facial hair and all. And we're like, oh gosh, he just, he's really a master. So he's done so many incredible films, and I'm so happy that you're really discovering, you have this whole road in front of you.
I love that. Everybody says, you haven't seen a lot of the movies. I'm like, yeah, but I'm working on it and I'm loving the journey. So give me a break.
I know. But I mean, Malayalam films to me feels like independent cinema in the US. It feels like if I went to Sundance, any of these films would have a place at Sundance. And really, I feel like Malayalam cinema, the whole industry does not do a good job of marketing. I mean, these films are very successful in Kerala. People know the audience. It's partially this relationship with the audience. The audience demands good writing. They don't have the patience. I mean, they'll go to see some of these big hero films from Tamil cinema or whatever. But if it's their homegrown, they demand good writing and quality, and they work with these limited budgets and yet make these incredible films, right?
Yes.
And they should really, like, when they're in Kerala, they'll put out these trailers that really tell you nothing about the film. And they might come out a week before. They don't they don't do the promo ahead of time to really let people. I'm not saying give the whole film away. I do kind of like that. If I see a trailer for a Malayalam film, I'm not even going to know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
You're like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that. We could go anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. But like, they need to market it, and if they're marketing more to the kind of viewers internationally that like art house films, there's so many Malayalam films that really could do well in foreign language Oscar category, right?
Right. Totally. I mean, they're becoming my favorite. Like I thought. And this is, being a noob, I was like, I guess all Indian films were like these big budget Hindi films. I had no idea because I'm just starting. And then when I saw Bahubali, I was like, I just assumed, oh, this is what all the movies are like. They're just this fantasy big spectacle. And then as you get into it, I started realizing all the languages and they have their own aesthetic. I started seeing like the different, like you said, the big budget versus the more grounded, Malayalam type films. And the more I get into them, the more I'm starting to see differences. It's like Malayalam's freaking badass as hell. I mean, I just love them. And then everybody's like, I'm so glad you're doing Malayalam. I'm like, why am I not doing them? I mean, they're incredible. So now I'm like, okay, what are some more good Malayalam films I can see
it? People will ask me, well, can you recommend an Indian film? And especially like if I know the person I'm talking to is more into independent films, quiet films, would react against songs and dance and all of that, then I it's a safe bet to give them Pambalangi Nights. Like, like, here you go. You know?
Even Joji, like I'll start like telling people who even just like little crime shows or whatever, like, I think you'd really like this movie because it's got a lot of complexity and it's got a really smart, it's using the pandemic idea as another way to veil their whole like nefarious activities and how they're all put together in this small area and how it's starting to explode like like dynamite. It's like just so I can easily recommend this film, and I'm starting to pick out films I know that will appeal because sometimes, you're afraid, like, I don't want to give somebody the wrong Indian film as their first film because then they'll be like, I don't like Indian movies. Like, then you feel like you're in there. So, but this film, I think, is an easy way in. When you're not doing the Bahubali type stuff, this is the one.
I mean, you don't have to know anything cultural at all.
No, you don't.
Now, the one thing is, I know homegrown audiences, the one scene where Fahad Fasil generally picks up this ball.
Yeah.
A homegrown audience would know what that is. I was
kind of like, what is it?
I had no idea what that was. Like, I can't remember how they translated it in the subtitles, but I had no idea. So that was a complete jaw dropping. Whoa!
I was like, I go, why is he picking that weird thing? What's it going to do? And then we threw it. I'm like, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And then they're all, it was one of those, like, what they call it, a crab ball or something. I was like, what in the hell? Is that something that exists naturally? Like, why would that just be laying around?
I can't remember if it's like kids or whatever, but I mean, homegrown audiences would have immediately known.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit.
And I had no clue that.
It was almost better. It was a total surprise. Like, what's he gonna do with this? Like, what? I could not believe he did that. Like, that was. Hold on a minute.
His brother couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, I know. He's like, and I love too where they're like, there's some pellets found in that, and he's like, crap, they can find that after all that. Ugh. Again,
again, Fahad being willing to play a character that's kind of stupid. Like
he was stupid. Everything about what he did was stupid. Everything was half-assed, including his crimes.
In my review, I called him a nebbish, which is a Yiddish term. That's exactly what he is. He's just It's like a ne'er-do-well who just can't. Not good at anything.
It's like he's just riding it out till he gets his inheritance. That's what he felt like.
I think his older brother calls him, I don't know what the Malayalam term, but it was translated blanket boy.
That's so good. So before we sign off, we want to tell you, besides definitely watch this movie, we have a couple posters. So this, I think, is the main poster, and I love that it's like one eye covered. That's a really cool idea. And we have a great special shoot of him. Gorgeous lighting.
Well, and it's also for the Kerala audience and for anyone else that is familiar with Fahad Fasil, this is all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
He's the star of this film.
Look at those eyes. Look at that eye.
In small print, it shows, the director, who is another name, but this is what you need to know. It's a film, and I think it came straight to streaming because it was a pandemic thing. So I think we're watching it. It came straight to Amazon Prime.
That's right. It's easy to find. Just watch it. And here we are. He's got one eye, and that's so captivated. All right. So then we got. I don't know how much of these are fan. This is kind of a cool little. It's a little fancier, but you almost don't need any of that. Like you said, you have him in it. He's in here twice. Then he's got once removed. Now we have three eyes because.
What's the focus? It's on Fahad Fasil's eyes and on him looking at us. Like
all you need are his eyes.
And we're like, what is he looking at us about?
I love the simplicity of this poster too. You were talking about the simplicity of the marketing too. Like they don't really tell you anything about this movie. We just have a special shoot. They didn't put anything in the background. Looks like probably the seamless he was shot on. He's just in a gray t-shirt. You don't know what this is, except that he's in it. Done. Right?
Done. That's all you need to know.
Then again, we've seen 3 posters and they are just him. There's no family ensemble. There's no other characters to mess it up. Just give him
this one. It's sort of. Couldn't you see this as like a theater poster for Macbeth, right?
Totally.
Okay, because it's got this dramatic like red on him.
Yeah, the red posterization.
One eye is red, like theater lighting or something.
Yeah, so one eye is kind of darker. Like he just, just looks like he's up to some shit.
Yeah, he's up to no good.
He is definitely up to no good. Do not trust this guy. So that's our rave review of this movie. I saw it and I said, we got to talk to Melanie about this because it's just too good. And I know she would know everything about it. So here we are.
Everything about it. But this is a combination. This director, like I said, and this actor was really all the local audience needed to know. And like I said, I'm not going to say that every film by Fahad is equally great, but this one is definitely one of the great performances that he's ever given.
Exactly. And I do think the marketing of bringing in Macbeth as an inspiration is smart, and it might appeal to Western audiences by giving them a way in, even though it's very loosely based, but it gives you the same thing of once you commit a crime, you never come back from it, and then you're going to be affected forever.
Well, and the writing, I was like, okay, it's using the word Macbeth.
Yes.
I sort of generally know what's going to happen, but still the writer and the director surprised me. Right? Exactly. Like I think you'd probably agree that like, okay, sort of know where we're going, but how we're going to get there, oh my God. Like I'm surprised at the path that we're taking. So,
and the restraint shown, and like you said, the last shot, the way they resolve it, and they didn't go overboard. It was just really perfectly artfully done, and just like a hint of it. And it was just that low key dread and the low key build, perfect ending, perfect shot. So that is our review for the day. Okay. See you guys next time, and be sure and check out Melanie's channel. Bye. Bye.
I'm getting this.
You're being very stripey.
I can't get out of this stripe. Like I'm trying. Okay.
We're almost done.
All right. Okay, I'm done.
We're almost done.